Okay, in this short video today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is problem solving. So you may be wondering that, and you may have been asked this question on a few occasions. That's good, because in this video today, we're going to talk a little bit about it. Over the years, and over the time I've been teaching management problem solving and teaching creative problem solving at the postgraduate level here in Australia, one of the things that often I'm amazed by is how a lot of people, when they're dealing with difficult problems at work or they're dealing with challenges, don't really understand what the point of it all is. In a nutshell, problem solving is closing a gap. So the first thing you need to understand, the first thing you need to really think about when you think about problem solving is what's the gap between what you want and what you expect. So we'd call that cognitive dissonance in fancy academic language, but in your world you may understand that as the pain or the difficulty that you're presently facing, the challenge that you're facing, or the thing that you're dealing with, which is really a pain and something that you find annoying and hard to handle, or perhaps something that's giving you sleepless nights, keeping you up at night, and those kinds of things. Now, problem solving is the process of closing that gap. And before you turn off the video and say, hang on a minute, man, are you telling me that this is the closing, this is like a matrix thing where I'm closing the gap and I'm, just changing the way I think and it shuts the gap? That's part of it, because it is a thinking pattern that's causing the issue. The cognitive dissonance is really what the problem relates to you personally. But the painful situation is probably being experienced by others. And that brings me to the second point of what a problem is. It is not just the cognitive dissonance you feel or the difference between what you experience and what's actually happening. It's actually the gap and the steps that you have to take to close that gap as it is being experienced by you and by other people. So when you're sitting down, perhaps you're a leader or you're a manager at the moment, and you're sitting down and you're thinking about all the different things that you've got to do, all the things that you know you can do, the simple things that you can do, but you might be stuck on something and you're thinking, damn, this isn't making any sense. I don't really know what to do about this. That's what I'm talking about in the first instance. The second part of that is you might go to a colleague or a friend and you might ask for feedback. And you might say to them, look, I need some kind of understanding here as to what this problem is. Have you had this problem before? And so that begins, then you begin the process of understanding what a problem really is. And in my world, a problem is that experience of the difference between reality and what you expect and what is actually happening. Then it's something that's being experienced by you and others. And the third thing, and the most important thing, and the final thing, is that it's something that is painful or difficult to define. It's something that you don't necessarily have an answer for. It wouldn't be a problem if you had the solution, is the way that some people in my area kind of say it. But I like to think of it like this. If you had the answer, then it wouldn't be a problem. So a problem really, for you, necessarily, a problem is something that is number one, is the gap between what you experience and what you're actually expecting to happen. Number two, it's the steps that you have to take in that gap to sort of figure out, okay, how do I solve this and close that gap? And the third thing is it's painful. Oh, and I forgot also with the second thing, it's experienced by other people. So that kind of rules out the idea that you can just make this stuff up in your head and you can do that. Because when you're leading something, or when you're trying to guide something through to its conclusion, there's always going to be these things where you don't have an answer. And to me, in simple language, that's what a problem is. It's those situations where you don't have an answer and you're not sure what to do. So here's a typical example that my students talk to me about. So there might be a situation where you have a difficult manager, someone that you're managing up to, right? Someone that you find particularly awkward to deal with. And they may be so difficult that people are leaving. So number one, there's the difference between what you expect and what's actually happening. Instead of being a supportive leader, this person's being a pain in the ass. The second part of that is the gap between the cognitive dissonance, like the experience and the reality. You now will know if you go and talk to other people that they're also experiencing the same problem. Okay, so this is really something that's externally validated. You've talked to people, this is really going on. This isn't paranoia or drug-induced psychosis. It's nothing like that. This is the real deal. Now, the third part is working towards a solution. We'll talk about that in other videos. But it's also, the third part of that might be, okay, there's this difficult person. Now you have to start taking steps towards resolving it and closing that gap. But you will experience pain and difficulty in that situation. And that's how you really know it's a problem. Now, it may not be pain. I've got a framework which I like to call the DOPA framework. It could be a desire, it could be an opportunity, it could be a problem, or it could be an aspiration. So these are the gaps. There's different ways of conceiving of the gaps of what a problem is. But think about it this way. Let's just say this person is difficult on a day-to-day basis. And I've got another video coming up after this one on dealing with difficult people. If they are difficult, then someone has to do something to sort of close that gap. And maybe that they will have to leave the organization. Like a colleague of mine recently had a bad manager, was telling me all about the experiences, like the bullying, the unrealistic expectations, and in one case asking them to do illegal things. In that case, okay, that gap exists, but to solve that problem, the manager left because eventually enough complaints, they were kind of shuffled out the door. And that happens in senior leadership positions, but you wouldn't believe it, this person's been promoted. And that often happens too, because the world, as we all know, is not a fair place. Because if it was a fair place, I'd have nothing to talk about. Okay, so if you would like any more of these kinds of things, this is just a general video. I doubt anyone will watch this, but hey, if you do, let me know what you think about it somewhere, like in the comments or something. As you can see, I'm quite old, so I don't really know how these things work. If there's something else you'd like questions and answers to, put in the comments below, and I will do my best to get to it and talk to you in another video. All right, so that's the end of this one. Thanks for watching if you got this far, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.